Hello. Hey, Voodoo Monkey. What's up?
Voodoo Monkey.
Here we are for another episode. This is Ken.
The Voodoo Monkey. The Voodoo Monkey original. The Voodoo Monkey. Fucking.
The Voodoo Monkey Master, the Voodoo Monkey Padawan. We need a name for Steve now. He's like the Voodoo Monkey, like hermit maybe, but he's got like a family and stuff, so he's not a hermit. I don't want to call him a hermit. He's not. He's like a watchmaker and stuff too, right? So he's got like, I don't know. He's like a wizard. He's a Voodoo Monkey wizard.
The watchmaker. Yeah, it just sounds all on its own. It's just like, have you
The
heard
gear master.
Do you know the watchmaker?
Yeah, that sounds like the guy from the Matrix or whatever, right? The key master. We have to find the key master.
The one who lives in Lethbridge?
Oh, yes, the watchmaker. Do you know the watchmaker? The watchmaker? Yeah. Lethbridge Lane. Anyways.
Oh, that got good real quick. Right on.
Yeah. So we were talking about dual nature and wisdom and that kind of stuff too, but then it kind of like we were just talking about what the fuck we were just talking about.
We were talking
short-term memory.
Dual nature, right? Like
yeah.
How everything has a dual
so
side to it.
Might as well just talk about that. Basically, like when you're going through lesson, and this is the difference between like knowledge and or intelligence and wisdom, where you can know what is involved with the thing, but you don't know exactly what it is until you experience it, and that's where the wisdom is more experience based. So if you're going through some kind of hardship or whatever, and you're like, this is a kind of a curse, I have to do this or whatever, I have to go through this, just knowing that there's a blessing hidden within that hidden lesson of this is making me more resilient to this, or this is making me learn a lesson to what this really is truly about, or even the good things in life being blessings. Say you won the lottery, oh, what a blessing, right? But it's also a curse too, because there's that demon of being addicted to the pleasures of life, or that kind of just fact of getting way into the pleasures and always partying.
Yeah, nothing, even aside from partying, nothing is ever enough. The pleasure or the addiction of needing more or not having enough dreams or enough goals, that addiction of pursuing goals is its own addiction, So like
that, I think that original desire is a black hole itself.
I think how we got onto the topic is we were talking about how meaningless life actually is. It does have a meaning.
We were talking about this.
By saying it's meaningless, we're not saying that life has no point. What is being said is most of what human mind decides. Most of what a human mind decides to do with life is meaningless. Is because freaking, even if I intend to leave my legacy behind, the way that I imagine it in my mind, the way that somebody else perceives that legacy, or the way they take me in general. Maybe they don't even like me. Maybe they only ever took one sentence of what I said out of everything I ever said to them. I don't know. And as far as I know, I'm never going to know. As far as I know. So I might not know how I influence the world, but we need to be okay with that. Even if we do find out, we need to be okay with knowing that we're just following that wave in life, that force of life versus trying to do our own life kind of thing. You're like trying to take from that force and do your own thing. That's black magic as far as I know.
All you got to do is be yourself. So if you're like trying to say like, okay, well, after I'm gone, what will myself look like, doing that kind of third person view rather than just knowing who you are. And this is where things like doing drugs can change that.
Somebody that wants to represent this,
or getting into things that are much more like impactful to more people, where you start worrying about what you have to do. Like some of my friends that are in school, part of them becoming on this kind of professional path means that they can't have certain YouTube videos that we made in high school on YouTube anymore because of how they might be seen publicly. And it's actually happened. We made Stetler is Awesome, this kind of like rap video, like during my high school final project for video production, just about how like the town is so awesome because it's so lame. And one of my friends is a substitute teacher that did the video with me, and he was teaching a class, and I'm like, "Oh, you're the Stetler is awesome guy," and they were like just watching the video the whole class and not paying attention. So we had to take it down. I didn't want to take it down, but fucking sometimes you got to do some shit.
Yeah.
So like
okay,
it does have
like
an effect like that too.
I got a problem with that right there, because that's not authentic living by any means. This idea of professional isn't a real thing. And on top of that, like nothing separates a professional.
It is a real thing
from
though.
Somebody,
it's as real as a career.
No, it isn't a real thing. It's something that we created. It doesn't really matter. You got the same mind as the professional. Professional's got the same mind as me.
It's an ego thing.
Yeah, it's an ego thing. It's
and it's a prescribed ego thing. It's saying you have to have this kind of ego if you want to be a teacher. It's saying you have to have this completely professional appearance. You know, you have to seem like you're not, you know, you're totally academic. Like you're
that is
right. Like you've never done anything funny in your life. You've never done anything that could be embarrassing or anything like that. That's what kills people sometimes. Well, not kills people, but like dulls people. I guess is what more I would try to say is dull them or force them into certain kind of things too. But I've known some teachers that have found a way to use that and kind of do a lot of more positive things, like starting like a guitar club or something. But just it has to be in the school is the only thing.
What's the difference between a fucking teacher group, what you just described, and a cult? Nothing.
There's no leader in a teacher group, though. I think it's just
described ego or mentality,
well, maybe there is, I don't know. I guess there is.
Method of life that you need to stick to, and you're not allowed to go outside those parameters. Here's a line, and here's a line, and you can go anywhere in the line, and I'm gonna make you believe that is complete freedom. To me, that is a cult. And so, like,
I guess so.
That just goes to show, down to like the core of our nature as society, we have this idea of like clicking together, coming together to do this thing that nobody else has done, or like that's how we get these things. So like I know something, you know something, okay? And so we want other people to know that, but because we start to realize the power that goes with knowledge along the way, we start putting rules in place, and that creates these parameters. And then all of a sudden, it's like the Voodoo Monkeys are those parameters, and that's what it is. But like,
that's kind of
that idea of how they perceive it. You know, that's what I'm talking about. When you're gone, how other people perceive something is more important than how we perceived it and intended it.
I get,
because how they perceive it is what was.
When you make those boundaries and saying you have to fit within these boundaries, that's changing people. That's changing for people who they really are, and people will change themselves to fit within that, and they'll no longer be themselves. They'll be themselves. Obviously, they'll still be themselves, and if they leave that, they might become them full themselves again too. But they end up cutting off half of themselves just to like fit in that boundaries, not in like a physical way, like a spiritual way. You know, cut off something completely spiritual to them, or that gives them energy or whatever in life, and then just to fit in these boundaries, and then they totally change who they are and affects their evolution and stuff. So it's like we're establishing a trend that really cuts off people's either creativity or their you know, life skills or whatever. It's something gets cut off in order to fit in this kind of professional range, or even like family, you know, to be a good dad or to be a good parent or whatever. It's like I have to cut off being social or something like that.
Probably
you know?
The biggest one, because there's this idea that you need to grow up and stop doing this. That doing this is not okay, but that's because there's a sense of jealousy. Well, I spent my life, I got this degree, I learned this thing, I read this book, I know Richard Dawkins this, I know fucking evolution that, and I know this thing and this principle in life. And there's a system that's existed since the 1700s you haven't strayed from. I'm sorry, you're an idiot. You haven't done shit. Like, ideas are where it's at. Like, when somebody tells you, oh, don't do this, that's usually something that's like holding them back, not something that's holding you back.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know, because why else would they be speaking to that specifically? They obviously have some sort of battle back and forth with that, you know? So like when somebody says something, we take it to mean personal to us, but that's how we take it. That may be not even how they intend it. That's why knowledge should be like the internet. Like when we perceive knowledge amongst each other, we should just put it out there openly, but we shouldn't be resistant to people putting it out, and we shouldn't be resistant to other knowledge being put out. We should just allow it to all go and then choose accordingly to what we think is wrong and right. Because if we do that, you get this system that eventually you can only find what the best path is.
Yeah. If you start making that distinction of like this is gospel, like reading the Bible and saying this is all true, or saying that this is something I can interpret, or even having the reflection. So like we're having a conversation right now, right? So it's like you say something and then I absorb it and it bounces off me, and then I reflect it back to you. But that doesn't mean that I lose the thought that I had, the full thought, because even the full thought doesn't get fully said too.
We're passing a seed of a thought back and forth, and each time you take the seed, it grows just a little bit, and then you're handing it back and it's growing a little bit. That's that interlocking mechanism we talked about last podcast. Yeah. Where you want to stack this, stack this, stack this, stack this. Eventually you get this idea and it's formed and it's refined. I call reflection God's law. The law of reflection is precisely what you are describing to me right now. To me, that's what it means. You take it on a very physical parameter. The law of reflection is the law of reflection. You take it out into a bigger parameter of what it is, and that is what you get. The same idea. Point A hits point B, or hits the center of something and then bounces into point B.
Yeah. But at the same time, like where it bounces, that point of reflection, there's another shadow too that doesn't ever get actualized. It never gets put into the world. That's a whole other thing. That's totally personal, totally individual, totally private.
If you imagine a tree has its branches, but then it's got these little like partial branches coming off the ends of it, and then it's got the buds on the end. So the buds are like your seed of thought. Now imagine going backwards in a tree down to the root of source. If you're already the end creation, if you're the end creation of the tree and you're like on the ends of it and you're like the buds, and you think about you're following these little branches, and there's many different branches leading into a main source. Okay. And then so you got this group leads into that source, and this group into that source, and this group into that source. And eventually it all comes into the center part. And this is the agreeable nature. This is what we all know is life. Everybody calls that center part life. But what they forget is the branches outward are still an extension of life. And just because they're an extension doesn't mean that they're not a direct descendant up. Life is still life. It's that force moving forward that creates that effect, you know? So like we start off as a seed because we're later in the process, right? So we're the leaf that's to grow on the tree, but who's to, like, how can the leaf tell the tree what art is when the leaf needs to listen to the tree about what it is?
I don't know. That's kind of a trippy thing to think about. I was with you until that point, and then I was like, holy shit, what the fuck? The way I was thinking about it, the tree being like our evolution on the planet, and you know how we came to be, how humans developed into what we are now, and then the branches being kind of like our families and societies and cultures, and then the seeds being the modern, what we're doing exactly at this moment kind of thing, you know, being this current time. So it's like you can't tell the past what's the present is, you know. But hindsight's always 20/20. If you could, it would obviously be so much better, right? Yeah. But like
but check this out. That movement exists. Time travel, maybe not.
Yeah, it's a spiritual mental movement.
It's like, I passed the idea. You might even pass that idea genetically, never knowing you passed it. So like that's what I'm over time, right? That's how evolution works. So that's what I'm saying is like that spirit of that seed or that idea, it might grow to this, grow to this, grow to this. And through generations, it grows and it grows and it grows. And look at what we have now.
Yeah. That reminds me of another kind of different thing. It's sort of still tied to evolution, how like previously it was all about how our bodies are adapting to the environment and how we're developing tools, how we're evolving the world around us. Now we're mostly just evolving ideas, evolving ways of thinking in order to solve these really complex things that are like the very final keys before we unlock this whole other age of life that's going to be like the space age kind of thing.
My personal view on it is we have no choice but to unlock this other way of life, is because that's the momentum of life. So that's the way it has to be, right?
Huge,
but at the same time, I think we're supposed to use the unlocking of the mind to be better people and realize we're pieces of shit. Not to say we're good people and just be good people, because I don't think that works. Like, we need to realize that we ourselves need to separate ourselves from our own evils. When I choose to lie behind closed doors because it could get me this, that like who I am in the dark is who I am. That is the most important, like,
that's a very true kind of thing. Trait. Like, some people would say that it's who you are in the light, that's who you truly are. But like the light is blinding. So it's like, are you yourself in the blinding light, or are you yourself in the the dark, the complete darkness? So like the complete darkness, if there's nothing else, there's no light, there's no anything else, it's just you. So are you just naturally afraid, or are you just naturally at peace? Whereas if you're in the blinding light, no matter who you are, you're going to be blinded. It's blinding.
Yeah, by something.
Yeah, but the dark in itself isn't scary. Monsters are scary, fucking giant clawing teeth and venom and poison. That's scary. Just darkness, that's very peaceful. That's sleeping. That's resting. It's completely different.
Yeah. See, and then there's that idea of like where you start to define. See, these are how seeds work. We've taken one seed, dark, and we split it into two seeds. You got dark 1 and dark 2 now. That's dark A, dark B. Dark A is like that peaceful state that you're talking about. Dark B is this actual force of what lives in the darkness. What is that force? What is that life force? Because dark is its own force, kind of like life is its own force. But what is life? Life is all things that are living. It's all forces. It's everything. So the all is life. And life is all, and you're a part of the all, but you are not all of everything. See, that's destiny. We can't argue with that. That's going to happen regardless. What we can do is choose how we move forward, because our spirits are what lives on. Those seeds are more important than our physical bodies. What we do in this life to think we have one life is actually silly. I hate that you only live once saying, because people say it's out of fear. They say it out of being right. They say it out of because they don't know what else to say. They say it as an excuse to not take responsibility for their own actions. You only live once.
I think they do it to just to add some life, to add some excitement, to kind of shed away those fears. I think it's to get rid of fears and to just get into life and just do things as they're there. I think it's more about not letting opportunities pass you by. But it's not. It's dumb, right? Because you don't live once. You live every day.
Yeah, and dual nature. Even when you die, you likely live, or there is no point to life, and that is the bottom line. That is a bottom line there. There is 0 point to living if there is not some sort of existence afterwards in some sort of form, regardless of your memory.
I guess. I mean, like, that's nihilist, right? Like, that eventually the world's going to explode and all humanity is going to be gone.
No,
your
I never
going to be
said
lost
that.
forever, right? But, like,
I never said that.
Oh.
I said that when you die and you pass, what happens to the person when they die? We see them as dead. That's it. They lived once. That was it. No, but that's what I'm saying. We know for a fact with science, magnetic fields, like there's been proven uses of paranormal activity before. We've seen it. We've documented scientifically. People choosing not to believe that, that's just ignorance. That's not.
The proof to me for that isn't in any kind of technological measurement or anything. It's
it really is, Taylor. They use instruments.
Yeah, but it's much more real in kind of like a shamanic setting where there's a group of people and they have this shared dream and they're all asleep. There's no communication between any of the people, but they all wake up and they all say the exact same details from the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And there's no way that they have a communication.
This is what I'm talking about, though, is that magnetic field. Okay, well, if you want to know if there's paranormal activity, the magnetic field is greatly increased, right? So you have the evidence, you got the account of a magnetic field that's at a high rate. You might even have a camera that caught something that people will pick apart, and you got the other part of the account of multiple witnesses. Now, all three of those things in a courtroom would stand up as a conviction. But you take all three of those things to something like paranormal, and they would say, okay, well, what about this? And they'll individually box those things off separately. Okay, let's take this thing, pick it apart. Let's take this thing, pick it, and it loses its formation. It loses its structure because it's all three things that go together that make that element of that life. Like, those are real things, real accounts. I don't know too many people that have gone into the spiritual fields. Well, everyone goes there. But I don't know too many people that talk about it publicly or really open up about it. But I know even when I talk to my friend Jordan about some things, he's just like, man, he's like, I won't even touch that. Like, he was like, he won't even touch that idea because he already knows on the other side of that idea what's lying there. And he's been there, he does that. So, like, even I tell him some of the shit that I've done or come to know, and the look is like, why do you know that? And that's a very interesting look for a human to have naturally built into them. Why do you know that? Are you supposed to know that?
It's this unique formation of how our bodies formed and how I think it comes back to how we kind of overcame nature to live as we are now. And we have this kind of ingenuity construct. We have this like enlightenment construct built in to being human.
Well, what about in a non-positive
like sense? Animals are either already have that to its fullest potential, to their fullest potential realized, or they don't have it at all. You know, but like
you're
humans,
the same. You're an animal. You're the same.
But we're completely unique.
Your fullest potential is the point you start living and the point you die. That's your fullest potential.
Yeah.
And you will never go beyond that.
Yeah, your life is your life. But like,
okay,
what I'm saying is that humans are unique in the way that we are built to kind of enlighten ourselves and to use our genius and come up with new things that have never existed. You know, that's unique to being human.
And this is the great spiritual question that a lot of people have struggled with for years. Were you built to engineer ideas, or is that a result of a great sin and you were built for something else? Now, this is where it all comes into the spectrum up to why we talk about these things, why we speak these languages, and how you answer that is what you believe. You need to. So you'd have to decide the difference between, do you believe that it's all about ideas and you were built that way? So that means you were created to create ideas. You were created to be like God. Or do you believe that you were created for something else and there was sin and then we became like this? So those are the two differences. Those are the only two paths in life that people, every idea spawns off one of those paths.
I think that it's more based in reality than in just ideas, because, well, maybe it's hard to tell, you know. I think about it as in, like, I wake up and observe the world around me and I kind of navigate life through observation and remembrance and all this kind of stuff, right? But like, it all comes down to ideas too. You know, they both play into each other. Like, it's hard to pick one that's ultimate because they're both so very real. It's not, you don't get to choose just one half of the yin yang. It's you need the whole yin yang to really be human.
You got to take the choice of up here, right? And you have to execute that choice to know what's right and wrong. You can't just say, this is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong. I need to say, okay, if you really truly desire to murder somebody, fucking go do it. Because then you're going to find out why it's wrong, what it's wrong about it. That's who you are. You know, I'm not saying murder's good, but trust me, that person will be okay. That's what I'm saying. Is like, the point of life goes beyond the grave. It doesn't end at just this little, like, I made my money, I died at this point, I retired. That's the silliest fucking way to live life.
Yeah. I gotta stop Googling. I'm trying to like find this paranormal proof kind of crap, but like, fuck that shit.
Okay, well, it's simple. Check out the tools that they use for actually measuring paranormal activity. And when you think about it in a logical sense as of what you want to do, think about it logically. Think about, okay, it's a form of energy. Okay, I'm an energy, I have a brain, so maybe this is a form of energy without a body that has a brain. Okay, makes sense. I'm with me that far. Now it's giving off these frequencies and it's clearly fucking there. So what is it? We call that supernatural. It's described by science, but because a person might put a form to it, like an artistic form to it, we then take it and say, now that's not real.
I think that it's such a combination of small things that you'll never measure the one big thing that is a combination of all the small things. I think that's really what the paranormal experience is based on, and that kind of spiritual experience is that there's a little difference in air temperature. There's a little difference in the chemical activity within your body. There's a little difference in the thoughts that happen. But all those little differences combined make that one big difference that there's a spirit here, you know, or there's some kind of communication to another realm.
And when we talk about darkness, right, which has been a theme lately in life, like it seems, because I went down a little bit of a dark path to realize who I was a bit, is like when you talk about darkness, what's interesting about it is like the Bible even describes the devil. So this is the spirit of darkness that you're thinking about, right? You're thinking about a spirit of something that has a force to it.
I think it's more the spirit of evil, and that darkness and evil are very associated.
Well, regardless of how you want to name it, he's called the manipulator of air. It is called the manipulator of air.
And what travels through air? Waves, sound.
And waves are energy, and sound is energy, language, and thoughts are on those waves, and everything is on those waves, and that's what I mean. And so, like, okay, so now you've entered this realm that think about this way. Do you really truly want to engage in that battle? It's like, here's the deal: is that evil's trying to penetrate your brain 24/7. And if you don't have a reason to be good, there is nothing stopping it from eventually getting through.
Yeah, that's kind of frightening, very terrifying. And if you let that fear overtake you, then you'll be lost to it.
This is how we get murderers. This is how we get crazy people.
They get lost in it, but like, I think you have to just, once again, it comes back to being mindful and just having your own thoughts and always knowing that there's the two sides of it. There's a dual nature.
Discernment, my friend.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, if you deny the devil, he will leave. You know, if you deny the impulse, it will go away. And you will feel that you have conquered that, and you're winning that spiritual battle.
What I like about this conversation is like, this is the perfect time to highlight what we're talking about here is these things, and it's not these things at the same time. It's not what you perceive these things to be, but these things are exactly what they are.
Yeah. So going back to the idea, well, what we were talking about of ideas versus observation, I guess, or ideas versus like reality, just like doing things. I think that ideas are the ultimate thing. And that like an idea can be totally perfect and kind of beautiful, like art.
Why we act.
Yeah, that's it's a lot of what kind of like guides what we do. You know, for so long, what was shaping ideas for people was religious things and stuff like that. But now it's more academic focus and kind of culture focus. There's different focus on ideas in the modern times than there was in the ancient times, you know, like traditionally there's a lot more religion guiding people, whereas here in Canada in modern days, it's more academic.
I've been waiting years for this.
Stuff like this.
You finally fucking listen for once in your fucking life. I'm like, holy shit, this is good.
I've been listening the whole time, but the problem is I have my memory gets all fucked up and like I get lost in these other things too. But
it's growing.
It's finally
mine from this point to this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and a shit ton of that stretching is from talking with you and kind of like getting into these ideas and just, is this what you're talking? Like trying to understand and then reflecting. You know, it's just a matter of doing it and kind of keeping it up. Let me tell you
something about you. You chose to be here and you choose to want to engage in my craziness. So
that's true.
That is who you are. That is something of your nature. That is something contributing to your principles. You're a person that likes to learn. It's as simple as that. Somebody that doesn't like to learn hates hanging out with me, because even somebody that wants to learn some days questions my sanity.
It's true. It's kind of messed up sometimes, but I think the point is like that it's making a difference. This is making a difference to me in my understanding of life and how I want to live, and I hope it's making a difference to you also, and that you get to kind of get through your stuff. Like you're making progress too, right?
Yeah.
So like 100%. These conversations make a difference to both of us, and I think that's why we do this.
Has those parameters though, like that psychology part of life, it like puts the rule like this is this and this is this, and you got to go in between here, because if you break these limits, those aren't ideas, those aren't beliefs, those aren't real things. That's psychosis. See, now do you see how that governing
it threatens the status quo, you know? It threatens peace and order, you know? They think people will go into the streets naked and fucking do some
status quo is evil. That's what the evil is. That's what the source is. It doesn't want you to break that parameter. It wants you to live within the.
We need some kind of crazy festival in Canada or in Alberta. You know, like all over the world, they've got these weird festivals where they throw tomatoes, or like the Exploding Hammer Festival, or like some crazy fucking thing.
Why and what are we celebrating? That is the most important thing.
Yeah,
why celebrate unless you got a reason to celebrate?
New culture festival for Alberta. Here's a big idea.
Yo,
so like, what's unique to Alberta other than the oil culture? But, well, here, I'll write that down anyway.
Something while you're writing there is like, okay, so you got this idea, like in the Bible, they talk about like be drunk or don't do like the pagans and like get drunk on wine and commit debauchery. But then there's these points where Jesus drinks wine. So then Christians have taken a stupid debate is like, is it okay to drink? Is it not okay? This is evil. This isn't evil. This is why. This isn't why. Rather than just saying, okay, I'm only going to celebrate when it's appropriate. Do you see what I'm saying?
That's important too. I mean, you don't want to be celebrating all the time. Like, different kinds of celebrations. I mean, you can be celebrating all the time. You can be. But if you're always getting drunk to celebrate, if you're always getting stoned to celebrate, or something like that, you mean celebrating could simply be
when I wake up in the morning,
something else, right?
Like, let me give you a simple form. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, well, I'm awake still. So let's do it. That's a form of its celebration. That's not always the form of like drinking. But guess what? When I hit certain points in my life, when I reach certain things, like it's like if I get a CD contract, I'm happy. There's glory happening here because it's like it's nothing but good energy going forward, you know? And then it's just like, okay, I'm gonna have a drink to that. Or I'm gonna have a drink to this. It's not to get drunk and commit debauchery. It's I am enjoying my life in moderation.
And like for such a long time when I was partying growing up, I would just get drunk. It's like, oh, it's time to drink. Better get fucking wasted. But now it's like making a toast. You know, here's to us. Here's to being friends. You know, here's to like getting through that. Like, let's say something so we know it's for the spirit. You know, there's a reason that liquor's called spirits.
let me bring the glory to my man. That, my friend, is true communion.
Yeah, communion. So, like, I mean, that's probably why people went to church and, like, found that community and communion through that, right? But, like, so now we do it in completely different context, right?
But they just take it into a different...
It's the same idea, but yeah, through...
Well, no, they take it out of context and put it into... It's like church is like taking a song. When it's live and it is what it is. But when you take that song and you put it into the edit engine, you know it's going to be perfect when it comes out the other end. That's what church is. Church is the fucking edit engine. It's this thing that's just like, we're going to take this real thing the way it is, and that's the truth, and we're going to make it a half-truth now. We're going to put it through the engine and make it look like it's supposed to be like this. And it's just like, if you do this, that's a sin, and you do that, that's a sin, and that's where they've gone wrong.
Yeah.
And every church has gone wrong. There is not one on this planet you will find that has the right idea.
Yeah, and as soon as you try to stretch that, they take it as such like a sin, and they exile you and stuff, and they say that you're totally wrong. You're consumed by the devil, and it's like, just be open-minded. That's what I don't like about churches and religion, and that kind of those boundaries, is that it encourages closed-mindedness.
But this is what we're getting at, is to make the point of the separation, that we're using the same words as them. There's this element of life that's called truth. And this is the element of life. We accept our lives for how they are, what we've done. We're going to take responsibility for those things. We're going to move forward with those things. And we're going to do our best, but we're not perfect. But through the ability of whatever God would exist, that for whatever reason would want to make us blameless for our shit, we don't have to worry about what we do, and that is what we should be thankful for. That is what I celebrate. That is why I'm so grateful to live, right? And I think that is a point, and then there's that other path in life, and not everybody agrees, you know? And when you're on the other path in life, you don't often even know about this path. That's something else to point out. Because I played hopscotch with these paths for a long fucking time. Like, I've been right into the darkest points of, like, black magic and Satanism and lots of shit that you shouldn't go touching, you know? And then, like, I've been into these other points now where I never realized that those points taking me there was going to be what made me so grateful for life. Because I realize that I'm not supposed to be here, or I don't have to be here, or I don't deserve to be here, but I am.
Yeah. There's a lesson out of that. Yeah, I remember thinking about the other path of always being mindful and kind of deciding who you want to be versus, like, always going into the impulses. Whatever lets you live, you know, blameless, shameless, or whatever, that's ultimately the path that you're going to gravitate to, and that you should probably live as, you know. So
but that's destiny,
for me,
right? That's following your path.
So I guess that determines kind of destiny is definitely an internal thing of, like, what you think life should be.
But destiny's at a force. So let's go back. Like, we're talking from
the inside. Are external things,
we're talking about the inside, right? We're talking about the buds on the branches going out. Now let's go to the other force. Let's go to the actual force that is all those things. You know, it's got its plan and it's moving.
Yeah, life is happening.
You're like blood cells within it.
Yeah. So, like, the two ways of living, whereas one's more mindfully constructed, pre-constructed per se, where you're kind of, okay, if I make these choices, it's going to create this kind of thing because I've learned these lessons in the past and I want to live this kind of life. Doing that, you know, you kind of know what you're getting into and what you're going to get out of it. Whereas living impulsively, reactionary, then you kind of don't really know. You're kind of experimenting, you're exploring, and you're more subject to those external forces. You're definitely going to run into things you didn't expect. So, like, I don't know, but you will be learning new things. Whereas the other way, where you kind of decide everything beforehand, you're not gonna really see much that's unexpected. You're gonna have little things, right? And maybe that's all that it's about, is just those little things.
Those little things make a difference. But I think about it, and this is the measure of knowledge, is like, I could have little things throughout my life, and I know things that, like, people who are like 60 and they've told me something about music I've already discovered now. And so you can actually see in their progress, because I know what went into it to get to that point. I know exactly where they were, where they stopped, and why they stopped. You know? And you see that and you're like, okay, but then there's this, and then there's this. Like, setting that limit is actually not the idea. God doesn't want there to be a limit on those things. He only put those rules in place to help you break the limits. He didn't put those rules in place. He said, this world is not your world. It's not my world. He's like, this is now a world of evil, and you have to function in this world. So check this out. Here's these principles. Here's these rules. Here's these ideas I've fed to a history of humanity over thousands of years, and you've now uncovered their manuscripts. And when this force of life comes at you to tell you everything's new and get rid of everything old and destroy all those old ideas, that's actually the source of them trying to destroy that mind, that sense of this is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong. And then this other thing's trying to birth itself to get rid of that. But it's never going to happen, because it's as simple as when truth is truly spoken, the discernment is made automatically. And that's the Spirit of Christ. I think that's what church is missing. I think that's what religions are missing, is, see, I don't have to judge you for your sins. You don't have to judge me for my sins, because the Spirit of Christ is simply that. It is simply the fact that you are here because, why? Because we're here. Because we sinned, we've been forgiven, we don't know why. Like, those are words that we've used and have been repetitively used and worn out. But what it really means is you don't have to sacrifice. There is a point. You can be happy. You're allowed to be happy.
Yeah. I mean, just like you said, like, you wake up and you're like, I'm awake. This is a celebration. You know, we're here. We're blessed already. We've had all these people living and evolving our world, and geniuses making these things to enrich our lives. And like, we live in a blessed world. We're not in any huge struggling place, you know. Like, what's the biggest struggle in Alberta right now? I guess there's some kind of fucked up shit that happened. Somebody committed suicide at the legislature building, and like, our potato crops weren't as good this year, so like, potatoes are more expensive. It's there's nothing crazy happening like genocide or fucking like famine, you know. Like,
the news feeds you this idea that the world is this. And this is all it is. Look what happened today.
Well, obviously there's a lot more, but it's like somebody's deciding what we see.
But most people aren't willing to stretch outside those parameters, right? So it's a matter of what the leaders do. If the leaders say, okay, it's okay for the news to be there because I had to overcome that, and so they should have to, that's not a right way of thinking either. Now we know what went wrong. We know what we should change on this side of life. So let's change it. So let's not focus on those negative things. Let's teach these people who have no fucking idea. Let's give the sheep, rather than eating them, let's give them something so that they can slowly convert that idea into being happy without having to know all these things.
Yeah. It would be nice to have, like, instead of like, oh, all this fucking terrible shit happening, you know, getting into like what they're really doing in like legislature and stuff like that, and what is being said, what they're pushing for. It's like, in pursuit of this agenda, I got to get into this, and these were the the obstructions and stuff, and getting people more involved in it. Well, it's such a removed thing, and it's such a prescribed thing. We don't really know.
Here's what puzzles me about politics.
Have faith to it.
It's like, nobody wants me to tell you what to do, and you don't want to tell me what to do. And if I tell somebody else what to do, if I go out and I say, hey, like, why do you do this? Don't do that. Do this. It pisses people off. They don't like it. Nobody does. Not one person likes that. But yet, then all of a sudden we'll sit back and we're like, well, who did we vote for? And what do you think these people are doing? They're deciding what to do with you. They are deciding what you're doing because you're too stupid to make the choice. So this is where leaders come into the picture. This is where you get elected from.
They probably want to be altruistic and say that, you know, they're representing the people and they're doing what they think is best for all the people, right? But like, what's their
They're trying
influence?
to be Moses, essentially.
They need some kind of influence too. They need some kind of information, what we want and stuff.
Exactly.
But people just aren't participating, so they have to guess.
Like,
that's why it's kind of broken.
That's the problem with saying I'm a leader, is because once you've said that, you set the parameters. I'm a leader, I've arrived. That's the problem with saying when I get there. Because when you get there, you've arrived. That's the problem with saying, but rather than just saying, I'm going to live my life. Every day I make a song, and if there happens to be a song left, great. And if I happen to make money from it, great. And if not, great. But ultimately, I have to question, why do I do it? I do it because I want to. And it brings me happiness at that moment. And that's the most important part. Time is more valuable than money. Time is not money. Money is a whole separate fucking thing. And that idea that time is money isn't really a good thought, you know? Like, it's a seed to fucking poison is what that is.
I think it's just trying to make the connection that time is valuable and time is worth something more than perhaps, you know, like just that constant rest and that constant comfort.
Because, like, ultimately, it takes time to get money anyways. So how are you spending your time during get money? If you spend 15 years or 20 years getting money, or 25 even, and then you have all this money, you're so fucking miserable by the end of the 25 years. Does it matter if you have money? No, because all your money's sitting in the bank. You know not to spend because you've never spent money on anything your whole life.
And all you had was your career and your family probably, but, you know, maybe you were making sacrifices for your career to keep your career that impacted your family, and maybe that's not great.
Me,
and like,
that's a kick in
things
the
cascade like
that, and right there, that's the kick in the face to what I call Christ, because like you kick that in the face. Like Christ said, you don't have to make sacrifices. Here's the path to abundance. Here's the wisest man in the world. Here's my path. Take these two paths, mix them together, and you have pretty much holy living. But if you're going to choose to do these other things, well, fuck, man.
But like, it's hard for me to say any kind of criticism to anybody that is like totally into like a professional career or totally into having a family or both even. You know, that's their part of life, and that's a very positive thing. And, you know, they're doing great things. I'm not saying that there's anything.
They have their path, they have their journey, like, and they have whatever is their things that they got to overcome.
That are in that, and they're struggling. Like, I want to do something for those people, because like they deserve to have some kind of inspiration.
Look at this. See, perfect. You have stepped into abundance, and your financial position has not changed. In this conversation, we have now just stepped into abundance, and you have not changed at all. Only thing that's changed is inside you. Your finances haven't changed, your situation hasn't changed, but now you have this idea to want to do something for somebody else that isn't based around you, because you know what goes into it. Now that is being selfless.
Hell yeah! Good. Well, I'm glad I'm here. This is a great place to be, and I hope I can kind of remember to stay like this, and to actually find somebody to help inspire.
We've taken that selflessness, because there's form of patience here, there's kindness here, there's all these elements of life here, and everybody's allowed to have some of it, and you don't have to earn that. It was just given to all of us, and so we're going to give it to you, kind of thing. And that's that element that not everybody agrees with. But what's nice about that is we call that love. That's true love. Love is not what these people call love. Love is what that is. That's love.
That's beautiful, man. It's so pure. I think that's why it's love. I think that's what made it love in the first place, was the pureness of it and the pure goodness. You know? And I don't want to like exclude this to any specific type of person. Like you're saying, like all people should have this kind of thing. And they should all have that inspiration to live their lives and as who they truly are, and who they truly want to be, and who they need to be.
But the words we use,
but like even that thing saying, I need to be this. Well, you need to be that because you want to be something else. So it's like, I need to be free from, THC. I need to quit weed because I want to be healthier. So it's like needs and wants are very closely linked, but they're not always the same.
To that fact. See, I want to show more appreciation to the fact of I'm awake. I'm alive. It's like if smoking causes my lungs to bleed, if those things, or causes my digestion to bleed, or esophagus and my stomach, and I got like these issues, if all those things are caused from drugs and drinking and smoking and stuff, well, then the appreciation to showing I'm actually learning and I'm grateful to life would be to celebrate life by not doing those things.
Yeah, but the thing about smoking weed is a little weird because there's such a mental effect with it, and there's such a spiritual effect that a lot of people, they end up damaging their lungs and their throat and stuff by smoking it, whereas the only reason they're doing that is to create that kind of purifying, like cleansing effect through.
But they could access it. You can access that effect without smoking weed.
See, but that's a lot more difficult, and that's so. Like, what is that? What is it? What is that? How do you do that? Is that through meditation? Or are you talking about?
Well, no. Here's
mindful practice.
Like, so I found it at one point in my life, and I think I called that Christian. And I definitely think that there's boundaries of like where the religion lies and where the actual truth lies, for sure. So those are separate, right, for a lot of people. But the religion fucked up the beliefs for me. And so it really took me on this journey that I had to realize that nobody was going to listen to what I said. I knew all these things. I knew a lot of these truthful facts, but I didn't have nothing to back them up with. But now that I've gone and I've lived this other side of life, it's a lot easier because I can understand why these people are living the way they live. And if I can understand why they live and I can still choose these things, now it's different. Because now when I say, yes, I did that, but I'm choosing this now, that the only question that can spawn is why. And whether they agree or disagree, that influence now exists. And that's what I mean by...
That's your journey, That's why. It's the journey that you're on.
But I call it Christian. But like I knew these things, and now I'm coming to learn it differently, and I'm learning it in a whole different way. So I had the rules of the religion telling me what that was, rather than me living life and learning about what life is. If the Bible says that Christ says that I am the way, the truth, and the life, well, obviously life, truth, is the way. Like, obviously, if life is bestowed in the man and life is the light of the man, and that's Old Testament, and then I am the way, the truth, and like the theme is the same here. The theme is the essence of life has been bestowed within me.
That's so like true, and it's like true and real. But like the weird so Jesus is the life, the light, and the way, right? So that being like the thing, those three things being kind of like ultimate to who you are, Jesus is ultimate to those too, which is kind of the weird thing in belief systems, that believing in Jesus not being as this thing, okay, well, he died for our sins. Like, what does that really mean? Like, people don't really know what that means, but like the idea of a sinless man, that being an ideal, that being the reason that he was here, is to kind of show us that you can be sinless. That being an inspiration.
No, let me change that, because I don't think the word sinless is ever used in the Bible, but let me change that to blameless, because that is that man would be blameless before God, that everything good that they will do will be taken as good, because that's a time that they're happy. And so, like, I think God understands that whole essence of, like, you're happy right now. That's awesome. Feel it. But, like, don't go in, like, because you're happy, I have money and I'm going to just buy this because I can, or do this, or take this attitude. No, be happy. Be abundant. He offered you the promised land. Have it. Fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... and I think a part of the art of life is knowing what sacrifices are worth it. Some people make a huge sacrifice in the modern time, and they have to suffer with that sacrifice for years. Months and months and months, and then they get to that later payoff, and they feel like it's kind of empty. They're like, okay, well, yay, now I got a nice car, great. I lost all my friends though.
Man,
something like that.
Ultimate Remembrance Day though. Like, think about it. Remembrance Day, we respect because they are able to create a certain kind of freedom within the parameters of something that's not free anyways. You know, and then like, so like all that death, see, that's evil. But then there's this other thing that it's actually the parameter of like true freedom. Yes. It's the idea of like, you don't have to worry about what you do because you're just a man. And that's biblical. That's a proverb. That comes from one of the wisest men alive. Like, this is not my spin on something. This is like, that is it, man. So now you have this knowledge right from the fucking source of Egypt telling you it's this.
It's just being yourself, being who you are.
Beginning, and this is what's cool for me. I'm on a trip and a half because I go back to the beginning and I'm like, and that's just it. In the beginning, he says, you may eat from all the trees except the one in the center, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And we consider Egyptian to be knowledge in the Great Pyramid at the dead center of the earth.
Yeah, and you know there's good there, and you know there was evil there. I mean, the pharaohs were in the ultimate good, and the slaves were in the ultimate evil. Or actually, maybe the slave drivers were in the ultimate evil because they had to deal out pain, and they had to follow orders all the time. Maybe they had a better life.
They were using the source to build greatness.
No, the slaves probably had it worse. Ultimately, the slaves probably had it worse. Let's be honest.
About it. The pyramids, we don't know how that come about. They used
maybe they had a lot more inspiration and kind of like
they used the source of life to create something greater, and they said that humanity didn't matter. It was physically what you built matter. And see, that's the difference. Yeah. Like that's a fucking very devilish fallen angel thought. Evil. Like, humanity doesn't matter. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah. So that's pretty evil. And that kind of, but that the enormity of that evil unlocked such good in their lives that they found some way to create things that had never existed and kind of really push humanity forward. But at the same time, like, it was fucking evil.
But if you murder somebody to cover up a lie or to create gain or something, you've created that same level of evil. You know, if you abuse slaves to say, I built this.
That reminds me of like people, you know, huge figures getting assassinated, like JFK, Princess Di, you know, Epstein. These things happening because like maybe they were about to reveal some kind of truth that would ruin the elites. You know, they're good.
The truth.
So
if
evil.
The pharaoh didn't build the pyramid, he had an idea and slaves built it.
Yeah, that's true. But that his willingness to do that evil to get the slaves to do it is what produced
knowledge.
One of the wonders of the world.
Yeah, but is the wonder of the world tainted to good or bad? So now this becomes what we call the Ark of the Covenant.
Because like you go inside, it's like, oh, we're gonna find King Tut's tomb. Oh, but there's curses in here. They did some fucking crazy ass shit.
So now we're tapping into that magic realm. Now you see what I'm saying about it being real is because like these symbols have things associated to them. They have an energy. They got the power of their own. So when I see a great wonder of the world, I think, I want to be great. I want to do something great. And it's actually that opposite side of life telling me that. When it's this that I want to serve being wise. I want to do the right thing. I want glory to be given to the right owner. And the owner of life is God. It is nothing other than that. And I don't care how you word it. God is nothing more than an intelligence and an energy you can't fucking fathom.
Yeah. Sometimes when I think that like the owner of life is God, I kind of make it a little smaller of an idea in a way, which is maybe sinful. I make it smaller to just the range of Earth and this solar system is what life is. For sure that we know. You know, probably there's alien life somewhere else, but we don't know that. That's not part of our lives right now. The search for it is, but that's still on Earth. Life is held by Earth, you know? So like Earth created our lives. Earth can destroy our lives. There could be some huge calamity that just wipes out everything. A thunderstorm that lasts for 100 years or something crazy.
It's just the bud.
We'll probably survive through it, but it'll be a completely different version of humanity that gets through that kind of thing. And maybe that's not going to happen just suddenly, but there's a good chance that that our climate's going to change and things are going to be so volatile in the atmosphere that we won't really be able to live on the surface in very many places anymore. We'll have to live under the ground or in bunkers, you know, and kind of
ultimately
become the tunnel species and the Mars species and be this.
But Taylor, the more important point is like you're not going to be here for most of that.
Yeah, that's the realm of sci-fi.
You're probably going to
now.
die, and you're probably not going to have memory of that. So what matters now comes down to, it's like, okay, clearly that doesn't matter. So the benefit of humanity isn't a matter either. If God created life, we should entrust the creator of life with the creation. We shouldn't say that we need to save ourselves from something that we're already saved from. The only thing that we need to do is just that whole idea of like waking up to be like, I'm here. What today? So I've been like in this practice of like ever since I was young, right? When I first like got my cross tattoo when I was 15, I told you about, I used to have this idea from this Bible verse in Isaiah. And it's about this like 6-winged angel, and he like comes to the altar and he's like has this command from God, and Isaiah's there and he's sitting there and he's just like, Isaiah bows before this angel and he's just like, here I am, send me, Lord. I'm the one, send me. And I take that essence of that imagery and I project it to life to think like, okay, here's the point before creation. Like my personality's forming and I'm not in a body yet and I'm in the womb and those energies are coming together and it's what we call science. And those things have formulated to make me who I am. Okay. You know? Yeah. And that's the angel coming to you and saying, it's just like, this is the mission. And then once you've been formulated, there's the choice right before you even open your eye to say, are you going to fulfill it? Here I am, send me. Or do you want somebody else to go, kind of thing? And it's just like, boom, you come into the world. And as you move away from these things, this gets further and further away. But you got to always remember the ground nature of what was imprinted in you to begin with.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, like the angel being kind of the spirit of validation and saying like, yeah, you are worth this, and you can go do those things, and like that's you know, sending you on that mission. This is your mission. Do it, right? That's feeling valid in your life of who you are as a human and being yourself. That's the angelic part.
And when you feel that source of happiness and that source too, of camaraderie and that source of brotherhood. Yeah. And that source of like tingles and that source of spiritual fuel. And you realize that there is no sacrifice required for it on this end.
Yeah, no, that's already fully formed.
You just have to actually listen to the words and not just hear them, but be able to translate the words into what they mean without experiencing them. You have not experienced what I've experienced. But what I suffered to learn these things was worth it on my path to be able to teach these things.
Yeah, that kind of, this is part of a book, but that kind of experience, you know, these are just words, right? But it gives you ambition, undeterrability, like that kind of like divine mission, right? It makes you ambitious. It makes it hard to deter you from it. It makes you always stay on that path. It gives you the imagination that you're going to do it, the openness to consider people's ideas, hear them. But it's still not going to deter you, and it's still going to give you a kind of humility in saying that I simply am, because it's so simple. You can be humble with it and have a humility to it. You know, this is my mission. My mission is to inspire, you know, or something like that.
Yeah, and it isn't to I inspired, look at me type mission.
No, it's I inspired because of this idea. Of ideas being ultimate. The idea is really the inspiring thing. The idea is the ambitious thing. That's so the
if God is life, if we call God life and life is God, because that's ultimately what we all want to learn about. We're all here to learn about life. It's funny, we're all learning about God without even knowing it. Like, if that's the source of everything, then you're learning about God. So don't take from it and say, I created this. I did this. I did this other thing. You didn't do any of it. You're just a part in it, and you get to be here. Be fucking grateful.
Yeah.
You get
Life
to be
made it happen.
let that be enough. Because there's consequences to that not being enough. Okay, like thought one. Okay, you want to take God out of the picture? Go so. Be an atheist. Take God out of the picture. Minute you do that, now you are responsible for everything in existence. You have to decide, oh, if I did that, now how is karma going to affect me here and this going to affect me here? And guess what? It's all real. It's going to work that way.
I guess so. Yeah, and then maybe there'll be kind of a reflection off of something damaging.
So that's the idea of I'm going to take from that source of that tree and create a branch and cut myself off from it. Like, you can't do that. You can't cut yourself off from the tree and not die. You got to stay a part of the tree.
Yeah. So like I say, life created it and life made it happen, but like ultimately I guess it is God that did it all, right? But like God being life and everything else too. God being life, but that's not all. God being the universe, but that's not all. Or the cosmos, but that's not all, right? Like you were saying that other day we were talking in this.
That's all life, okay?
But it is life, yeah. Life is knowing that. Life is seeing that and interpreting it. But like life is not the cosmos. The cosmos formed into the solar system, formed in the sun, formed life.
The only thing God is not is your choice, because you took that.
What?
The only thing God is not is your choice, because you took that.
Yeah, that's the human element. The human element is the choice.
But he didn't create it like that necessarily. But you took that. There was an option there. We took it naturally. Yeah. We went to the source. We went to the middle. We ate from that tree. We discerned what good and evil is now. And because we took from that source, now it's got this other picture. But like, the thing is like, that was all known. It was going to happen. And this was going to be fulfilled later. And then this thing was all going to become this great big thing. So it was already being when it started. You know what I mean? So like, that is what I mean, is negative and positive is perfection together. But yeah, sooner or later, true perfection would be the separation of those things, to not exist where there's evil.
I've got kind of a poem here. It's kind of based in like choices and stuff like that. At least the first part of it is. We'll see what's here. I'm just gonna share this. There's no title to this. The first part is just a bunch of questions. So it's how well do you live in your choices? Do you realize what is at the end of your journeys? Does it feel good when you show restraint? Can you believe what you are? And then it goes on. I am modified, not broken. I have a program. It's interpretation. There's a lesson. Life is learning. It's the journey here and there. Another question. It's all where. So that's kind of weird. But and then it's kind of a verse. Excited to collide it, the crash of planets consumes, borders breaking boundaries, sheer fission splits in two. As one half goes one way and the other's replaced you, the fusion of confusion is made clear by battle wounds. So there's kind of a lot there, I guess. And I could get into it, but like,
that's a very good piece. I like that, because like, thanks. You're really accenting a point of like the journey of what people go through. Like, we do go through the sacrifice of life, but it is simply just to understand what sacrifice has been made for us that we can exist in life.
Yeah.
Like when we say, look at what I did and pity me and I sacrifice this, like, what are you getting out of that? You're not getting anything. What do you want? Glorification? That isn't what we really want. Not truly. We're not truly happy with that. Like, the truth of the matter is like,
just recognition and validation, kind of that angelic thing, right?
The fact that I can appreciate life sometimes and drop to my knees and be like, sick, thanks. And literally my prayer awesome. Be one word. And I can stand up and it means fucking this. It doesn't mean.
It's not a tiny vibration. It's a huge like release of this. I want to just keep using angelic inspiration, but like, there's a better word here. Like rapture.
It's this huge intelligent energy. It's God. It's the love of God is what it is. Do you love life? Because if you love life, you love God, and one does not serve themselves and serve God. Like, that does not work. Like, you serve the force of life because it can obliterate you. You don't try to take the force of life and make it serve you. The force of life was not created for you. It was created with you.
Yeah. And you know, through your kind of like growing into the being that you are. Life doesn't happen without you. It happens with you. And it does happen without you. I mean, if you're not there, it's happening without you. But if you're there, it's happening with you.
But when it's happening without you and you're not present, something else is present, allowing you to move in those ways and do those things so that life can stay on the agenda it's on.
Yeah.
It's up to you to stop and just appreciate the knowledge that's passing by.
Yeah. This reminds me of another thing. See, I've slowly been like creating these things that are along these lines, and I'm glad I have a chance to share them now, finally.
I'm glad you're creating things.
Yeah, it's good. I'm trying to find which one it is.
Man, I wasn't sure how this podcast was going to go. I'm never sure how they're about to go. And sometimes me and Taylor, we have some really fucking wicked podcasts. Like today, this is a good one. But then there's like days that we just have like complete shit. But I want you to know that
some days I'm
like
so
90%
fucking
of our friendship for 6 years.
Yeah. Mostly, right? Like, this is holy practice. Crap. If we would have recorded all of our conversations we've ever had, we would have like 100 episodes at least, 200 like hours and hours and hours. Like, we've had conversations up to 5 hours before.
And what is this? This is going to be about the second episode we've released in a couple weeks.
Yeah, so we're starting to get regular with it, right? And we should get some more fucking people into this.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Like, the more people that we can get to this
I've been
spot.
trying to find.
Like, I really love this place.
Bring into this conversation. Like, and I think it's hard because I think what we got to do is it's up to us now to go out and seek out people that kind of have some fundamental ground that we can work with in conversations. Because what you're going to have to remember is the Voodoo Monkeys might know and understand all of these types of things are made up of like this and this and this and this, but not everyone is going to understand that. So like what's cool is what we can do is we can take those things, have a show about those things, but then you have the separate part where we can analyze and reflect on those things and bring the Voodoo Monkey touch to those things, you know? So like that's going to expand the show ultimately into what we would like it to be, you know, because not everyone is going to agree with this. And it would be good to get other ideas out there because this is what I've been saying all along. It isn't to agree or disagree. It's everybody's right. But to accept that everybody's right to a degree, you know, you just have to understand why they're at that degree. And once you do, you know that they're at that stage in life and that's the stage they're at. You don't have to accept or have a expectation, for what you want people to grow to be, you know? So like, I conflicted with that.
Where, like, respecting other people comes into it, and through respecting other people and respecting maybe specific things, maybe you shouldn't respect everything, right? There's definitely things that people can improve on, and maybe they're not realizing it right away. But having that can create that room for genius too, of saying, okay, you got some things right. Maybe it's not all of it, but like if you start considering these things that I hold to be very true and have been proven to others in my life and have allowed us to live in this kind of enlightened state, then it could work for you too. Like, obviously, because you're having some point. And not saying that it's so enlightened, right? But like, it's definitely better.
What I like to do, I like to wait until I kind of get a sense of how they function or what they're about or what the train of thought process is. And I'll kind of watch it, and then I'll make an analytical decision, not based off because I want to be right, not based off because I am right. I'll just make it because at that moment, this thought popped into my head, and it seems pretty logical, so now I'm going to say it, you know? And like that can shed light on things. That's how I change people. I don't try to change people to change people. I don't want to change people. I just wish that people cared more about what I cared about, is ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah, and kind of adapting the idea, right? But
that's
just
what art's
keep
for.
Yeah. But like the simplicity of ultimate truth and ultimate ideas makes them pretty incorruptible, and there's not really room for adaptation because they are so simple. If you adapt it, it's really changing ideas to the other side. It's really flipping. It's not really adapting. It's more just completely changing sides on the most basic, ultimate, simple level. But like, people don't live at that simple level. They live in a more complex world.
And so it's like, proven this.
Okay, well, unlearn that and simplify it. It's a
that
weird step that feels unnatural.
Somebody that grows so much on the one side, they get developed orders such as like schizophrenia, shit like that. So
like it shouldn't feel that unnatural that it creates something schizophrenic like that. Like that's what we really formed by. And current modern society has created a boundary between the most simple. That's like, let's become aliens.
That's that evil energy, like saying like, you're schizophrenic. This is how society is. This is how that is. Like, that's that energy saying like, nope, that's a schizophrenic idea. When right now, what we just dissected, what we've just brought to the surface is everybody's naturally a little schizophrenic. Like I said, I've said forever,
actually psychological things that say that no thought is your own. Everything's been learned. What you are is pure blankness. You're born just with no ideas. You're born with just perception, and then it got filled with the world, right? And a lot of it was the same for everybody. A lot of it was unique to you too. But like taking those things and making a unique formation of it through your own path in life, being your being, that's what really makes you who you are. We all have the same mind, but we were just born into different lives. Our lives are what make us different.
Without jumping onto a ramble of like,
but even our formation of our birth, our brain, our body, that's unique too.
Make it simple.
The mind is kind of the
simplify. Part. You're doing now what I used to do, where I get off on that big idea. You want to come simpler. You want to skip that step. You don't want to go off on the big idea explaining it. You want to say, okay, so a scorpion's living. I'm living. It has a mind. I have a mind. It has an energy. I have an energy. It is poisonous. I am not.
Okay.
I have a hammer. Like
you can squish the scorpion.
Yeah, like so it's all balancing.
Make traps for the scorpion.
The whole nature is there. It's all balancing. It's all perfect. So what do I choose to do? Now that's what matters. Now, do I just leave it be? It's not hurting me. I'm not hurting it. Why would I kill it? There's no reason to kill it. But because my fear instinct, the fear of a demon, or demon being fear, or whatever you want to call it, because that little evil seed pops into my brain, now my first reaction is to kill the fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like, that is exactly what I'm saying.
Is it more evil to kill it, or is it more? Well, okay, I already know the answer. I'm not even gonna get into it.
Well, it depends. I mean, do you think that you're more valuable than every other form of life that exists?
I don't know. No.
Okay, because the scorpion.
Every other form. No, every other form. I'd rather the rest of the world kept existing and I died than I survive and the rest of the world dies. If like you're standing in front of the nuclear launch button and it's like, oh, I could launch this, here's the 100 people that would survive in this underground bunker with me, and the rest of the world would be totally fucked over. Maybe they'd be like individual bunkers scattered, but we're probably never going to connect. It's like, do I want to do this? Do I really hate the world that much? No. Obviously it's like, okay, just shoot me in the head, because I'm not going to fucking blow the entire world up.
Something I used to always say is like, I hate life. I didn't really have a reason. Well, I had a reason for it. My reason being was I didn't like people. I didn't like how people treated each other. I didn't like how I was treated growing up. I didn't like all the things that I did have to overcome, which I'd rather not even think about. Like, so I had this idea, like, I hate life. And even like I get depressing days. Like earlier today, I was having a depression notion. I did a lot of drugs in my life. Wintertime hits. I know those patterns. So today I knew. I'm like, I had to say, okay, I'm just depressed. This is why I'm depressed. This is going on. I need to just ignore that. You see what I mean? But that seed was working ever so hard to penetrate my mind to get me to that thought of, what's the point of living? So that seed exists. That's a real thing. We call that anxiety. We call it this. Those are demons. That is simply what it is. It is an idea. It is a thought. It is a spirit. It is trying to kill you.
Frightening. Do you think it's a benefit to live in that fear? You know, some people try to live in safety and comfort, but maybe it's better to live in fear to kind of like light that fire under your butt and get living.
There's no escaping them, but this is how you escape
like, what is life?
I know this is bad now. Check this out. So it might have taken me 15 years to know smoking's bad, but now I know it's bad. So when I do it, I have a different guilt about it. So if I do enjoy a cigarette, it's like, well, this is stupid. I'm pleasuring myself rather than appreciating the fact that I'm living.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. You know? So like that, and that demon's there, it's just like, oh, let's have a smoke, or maybe you want to smoke, and it'll just say it once, and then it's just like, okay, that was a bad thought, and we don't think of it as like this external thing with an actual agenda. You know, it wants you to die. Fucking have her. Have the smoke. Have a smoke. Have a smoke. Have a smoke. Oh, what? You got lung cancer?
Yeah. You know, I remember when I was actually smoking cigarettes, because I actually smoked cigarettes for a while, and I did feel like dying sometimes.
Yeah.
I would smoke and I'd be like, I just have to lay down on the couch, you know, like a weak little, like it made me weak for sure.
Why is this important to decipher these things? Is because, well, I had to go through all the process of like smoking and learning why we don't smoke by doing. Okay? But it's simple now. Like, I did it. This happened. Fucking, this isn't hard. You don't need to experience it. That's not something that needs to be experienced. Don't do it. There's no glorifying God in that. It isn't because you're fucking smoking and that's sinful. It's because you're damaging your lungs. You were given life. Those are meant to breathe. You dumb fuck. That's why that law is so fucking permanent.
Yeah. Yeah. Laws of nature are never going to change. Nature is always going to be nature.
What it is. And now that brings us to a greater lesson. You have now just deciphered the difference between a half-truth and a full truth.
Yeah.
The laws of nature are never going to change.
Yeah.
The way it is the way it is.
Yeah, that's truth.
And that's truth.
But like, still though, it helps to get there and say, okay, well, this is what it is, you know, and identifying it and reminding yourself of those things. So like retesting things. Like I think of scientific principles. It's like, okay, well, we've tested this, proven it to be true. So it's like, it's always going to be true. But like at the same time, the universe is fucking crazy. You never know what's going to happen. Maybe it's different
just
now.
To come back.
Like there's probably not any worth of like setting up an experiment to like, you know, retest a lot of these things. But like, I remember even just going into class and when you're pursuing an academic scientific degree or engineering or something, and just like, here, look, we can put this paper on this magnet and pour some iron filings, and you can see these invisible lines of force, and you can see the direction that they are. You know, people did this that long ago, and they were inspired to create this genius idea and identify it and say, this is really what it is. Let's let go of the past. Let's observe the present and use it and apply it, you know, like you were saying, to create a more understanding future that we can push forward these boundaries that are holding us back.
I've spent 28 short years to what most people would call short. But it's been a pretty long adventure trying to get to this point that we are currently at. Not just you and me, but trying to be the one in life that has molded this and done this because that was my purpose. You see? Like, yeah. I've taken, to me, this is simple. This isn't like, oh, look at me, I'm a genius. This is like, I'm not stretching my mind. I don't want glory for it. This is my lowest level of thinking.
And it's blown my mind for years. Like, holy fuck. I can't believe people don't want to hear this. Like people can't.
I can't think below
build this bridge.
I physically cannot think below this element. The way this conversation is, if you think that is complex, you honestly would hate me. You couldn't stand to be in a room with me, because this is about the lowest level of functioning I can do.
Wow. I guess it does require such like a open mind. That, like, it is really simple. People think that it's, oh, that's so complicated, that's so deep, how do you understand that or whatever. It's like, it's really simple. Like, it's just these matter of things, but like, you got to get it, you got to form it into language, and that's almost the complicated part, is forming it into language. Like, the idea is simple. Eventually it's going to be simple language, but like there's all these things to go through first. Yeah, a lot of steps involved. It's like running a marathon to kind of get to the idea there.
I'm giving experiences I know other people had, that I know that was the way it was, and lessons that I've also learned that contribute to that fact, that I know that's that.
Yeah.
So like, but then I have my own set of lessons. And so like this idea of like, now that I've realized how important words are, how I say things to get to the point, to be able to decisively cut. Now that once you form this bubble and this picture, it's like literally anybody with an open enough mind willing to sit down and listen, actually listen, has no choice but to hear truth, and will probably follow that beacon,
Yeah,
and
they will learn something and kind of progress themselves and work on their human,
Yeah. And so working on a human is not an idea of I am this, or look how great I am, or look how successful I am, or look at what I've learned in life. Working on human is nothing more than pretty much the fruits of the Spirit. It's Christ's book.
Well,
it's his invention. It's
making better choices.
It's making better choices.
It's making the choices that are going to lead you to an inspired life.
Check this out. You have a cover, even though you should go to hell. It's like, and the reason we should go to hell is because ultimately we are bad. We will lie to achieve something. We will steal to achieve something. We all fucking do. And we've said it 1,000 times. Oh, I've lied before. I've done this before. And we think that's a form of being righteous. That is not being righteous. That is not being pure. That is just making excuses for doing what you do.
Yeah. And too often it's just because it was easy and it was good for me, it wasn't hurting me at all. So it was easy to laugh at that, somebody else's pain, But like, you can't.
You're blessed to be awakened to this fact. Think about people that were 60 and still don't know this.
They're gonna live the rest of their life like that.
They might.
And that's their life, That's them.
But do you know what? I truly believe, here comes the point. So you see how you get to live your life like this? Here comes the point. We get to live our life for whatever time we're here like this. But they hit that point where they've lived their life, and then they hit the point. And that's what it means to get into heaven with the fires of hell barely at your feet, like just nipping at your heels. That's what that means. Is at that point of death, you realized it's this.
Yeah. And there's the enlightenment. There's the final piece, the keystone of your life happening just as you die. So,
But check it out. You get to live your life like this instead.
Yeah.
So that's what being hard-hearted does to a person. That's what being opinionated does. That's what having my opinion and nobody else's, and whatever, I don't care, but at the end of the day, this is what I say. That's what that gets you.
And I think maybe that's all right to have that kind of a thing, but having the attitude that nothing's ever going to change it, and having the attitude that whatever you say is probably not going to work, like that person's had some kind of experience where maybe they did consider something open-minded, and then it immediately put it into practice, and it backfired, because maybe they didn't fully understand it before they implemented it, and it ended up ruining something for them.
They didn't know. They didn't take it like, oh, this is a piece of knowledge, and one day I'm gonna have the full truth. But for now, this is what I think is right, and even if this is wrong, I'm gonna be forgiven for that because I'm covered. I'm just a man. But as soon as I know it's wrong, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
That is the wisest thing any man can do if they know the difference between good and evil.
Yeah, maybe it's that easy. I'm just gonna take a little break here. I'm just gonna make another coffee here. I'm just like getting into it.
Yo, are we able to pause this podcast?
I don't know if we can pause the recording, but I mean, I could afterwards find this spot and just cut this spot out and then just continue on after. I can just put the logo here.
I'm excited that we got 2 shows done.
Yeah. Like, I mean, even this, an hour and a half, that's a good length of podcast. I have a request
for you. I really like the spaceship intro. It was fun doing the guitar for one intro. But I really think you should take the spaceship one we used in episode 4 and apply it to your new logo now.
Okay. Well, yeah, that actually would work really well,
Because it's got the space helmet and everything too.
Yeah, and since I've updated that, I've taken the cigar out because that's kind of oh, you gotta smoke to be, but that's not necessary at all. So I'm glad that we took that out.
Give off the wrong idea. We want the Voodoo Monkeys to realize, like Rafiki, this is like Lion King style. You're the good servant of all that is good. That is what Voodoo Monkey really truly means. And I had a huge, long spiritual debate with that because I was the creator of this and I was on some dark paths when I created it.
Yeah. But I mean, ultimately, the path that you were sharing was the good path.
I wanted it to be truth the whole time. I wanted it to be this good thing, not this bad thing. So ultimately, the intention was good, but there was a lot of learning along the way, like any lesson in life.
Yeah.
Sick. All right, let's break. Dude, I didn't listen to we're continuing the podcast, obviously. I didn't listen to the first lesson. Remember, 6 years ago, I woke up, I went for a run because I was coughing my lungs out because I realized that I needed to breathe. And I actually learned that lesson fully and grasped it, pretty much that concept what we were talking about. And I grabbed onto that idea and understood it. I wouldn't be in this position. But now, this lesson has come around again. It's taken its time because it had to, right? And more to it. And the first warning said this, but then I didn't listen. And now we're here, And now it's okay, you need to quit now, but now your addiction is this much worse because you've been doing it since then. So now you understand that it's a choice. So it's just it comes down to, do you want to get stoned? Do you want to die? And you might not die right now, but every time you do that, that's like playing roulette. That's like spinning the fucking bullet and which one is it that's gonna kill me? Because
and
literally,
things too about when you go to quit before and you tried to quit and stuff like that, the same things probably are gonna become less and less effective because they've already not worked before. They worked for a time, right? But then something else brought you back in. But maybe the same thing will work again, but you gotta not let the same thing get you back into it. Maybe I don't know. I've kind of smoked weed and then quit and then come back and forth a few times with smoking weed, but it's kind of like tolerance breaks for that almost.
I'm what's the
something
point
like coffee. I think once you quit, some things, once you quit, you quit, or even just smoking all in general.
What's the point of too much? Knowing what is too much, just knowing that you shouldn't do everything in fast pace or excess ever is a good memo to go by because I fucking smoked so much weed that I was just it got to a point in my life that I knew smoking that much couldn't have been good for me. And in my brain, I'm well, what am I doing about it? Well, no, I'm gonna still do this because I feel fine. I'm so what's the point of too much? And it's I cough, but I'm still here. I'm still fine. And I cough and really that's the warning of being you're approaching this when really you're just no, I'm fine. See, it's this not listening type thing mentality. It's I might know the words or I might know that that's not good, but I'm not fully taking it in. And then all of a sudden I'm fucking like down the road throwing up blood. And I'm like, okay, so that's the point of too much. But the point of too much was actually like fucking way back here. Because I fucking just didn't listen to hear. That was the point of too much for me to take. But like, now my destiny is on my own. Like, I did that on my own. You know, that might be the path. That might be like the kick into high gear. What are you doing with your time now? How are you spending it? Well, I'm spending it well because I might not be here type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are where you need to be in life because that's the sum of your choices now. So like, it's like the culmination of everything you've ever done led you to be here now. And maybe it's not directly connected everything, right? But it's all summed up within your being of who you are.
You realize how much of a choice you have when you don't have one.
Yeah. And that's when you lose kind of that human element of choice.
Well, no, humility comes before honor.
So I want to just look up humility right now and just make sure that I got this definition right, because I was thinking about it for a second there and there's a little bit of uncertainty. Whenever I feel it, I always look it up. I love looking up words.
Yeah. Oh, it's my favorite thing to do because words are important.
Yeah, and they're ideas, and ideas are ultimate. So check this out. Humility, a modest or low view of one's own importance, humbleness. He needs the humility to accept that their way may be better. And that's like such an important thing. And some people maybe think that it's...
Now look up honor.
Look at this. Hold on a second. Similar words: modesty, humbleness, modestness, meekness, lack of pride. Lack of vanity, lack diffidence, I don't know what, unassertiveness. You know, to me, like, pride is something that is important, I think, but it's not something that should dominate it ever, and it should be put aside for things like humility, especially if you're in a team environment. You know, okay, so if you're in something, if you're like a
let me blow your mind.
I was gonna say a fighter, but like, or an actor or something like that, where it's like it's all on you at some time, you know, a lot of times. But like at another point of the journey of getting you to there, it was somebody else helping you, you know. It's always a culmination. It's always teamwork.
Yeah. No, there's always somebody that helped you. You never did it 100% yourself. And here's the other thing is like, I'm going to go with that idea that you were just talking about. So that's where you take something like an ego. That's what we call a personality. Okay, so ego is nothing more than personality. Ego is another word for your personality. So as you take things that say that this is me and I'm different than this, that's what you're feeding. You're feeding this idea that it's a personality and it's a spirit of its own. It's its own thing. And that is what we call demon possession. This is now where the pure spirit lies amongst all this other thing that has this other agenda. What we call magical is almost like an insidious thing that's moving in the same way life is, kind of. And in our heads, we know isn't quite fully true, but for some reason we allow it to pull us. And that is a demon. You know, like I can't stress that enough. I am very adamant about getting through to people what a demon actually fucking is. A demon is an idea. A demon is a thought.
Demons are, yeah.
A demon is a living entity that.
So like they're as ultimate as good, as goodness, as angels, I guess, or as God. You know, I suppose God's more the other way, but like demons are like kind of the evil thing, of like the most terrifying nightmare, and not even as monsters, but like. It's hard to explain, like, and they have all nightmares combined.
Check it out. They have a place. They have a place of their own too. It's called the spiritual realm, because a demon is an undead spirit. It doesn't live, nor does it die. It is simply just exists for as long as time exists, and it wants to do these evil agendas, right? So that spirit occupies an idea. That idea penetrates the mind. Once that mind is penetrated, the form of the spirit or that idea fully starts to emerge. What we think is a branch of knowledge is actually kind of being hijacked
Yeah. Well, that's like how you say, like, you take a strand out of it, right? And it makes a spin on it every time. But like, the goal of a communication like this would be to kind of add spins, create constructive spins that are both spinning and kind of building on each other. Whereas like more demons would be the destructive ones. So it's like good is construction, evil is destruction. But in contextually, and it's kind of like what context it is, you know? So you take something like logging the rainforest, you know, that destroys habitats and constructs, well, farmland and stuff like that, you know, or houses and furniture
for the purpose of destruction.
Good for humans, bad for animals. So like, what the fuck, like it sucks. So I don't even know what to say about it. I'm just thinking about that right now. I'm like, God damn, that sucks. Fuck, why do we do that? Why do we need to do that, you know?
Yeah, but you see, now you're joining.
But like, there's definitely some kind of need for that, because those people want to have lives. It's on that kind of scale. People end up doing things.
Isn't that the beginning lie? Hey, check it out. Crazy. Taylor, isn't that the beginning lie? Like, people want lies, right? They want this to be, I want to be in charge of this. So like, that was the beginning lie. It was like, it wasn't like that, and you have everything provided and everything's good and everybody knows, but then there was that thing that said, no, God just doesn't want you to be like him. Go ahead, do it. And then, so we eat from the tree, and now it's like, oh, this is life? I want
it. Yeah.
You already had it, you idiot.
That's fucking hilarious. It's like, now you just have all this other shit too, haha. But it's kind of like tragedy and
Thank you, God.
In that moment, both were created, tragedy and comedy. It was neither at the start, and then that as soon as that choice, it was both. Oh shit.
Seriously, I don't even know where I come up with it half the time. It's on the spot, hidden idea. You say some, I say some, and then I'm like, but, and then I nail the point. It isn't like I premeditate this shit. You know,
yeah.
Like I'm like, as I say it, I'm learning it. You know.
Yeah. That's how we do. That's the Voodoo Monkeys.
That's how we do.
Yeah.
Well, I premeditate some things. Obviously, I'm human, but like, I mean, not everything I say is like this deep in thought. 90% of what I say that's actually worth listening to is usually something I haven't premeditated, because my mind hasn't had enough time to corrupt the idea. So I've grabbed onto this natural, pure thought, and I've only had it long enough for it to stay pure. You know, like.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering, like, because I was talking about comedy and tragedy. So like, what is comedy these days? I'm thinking about all the censorship and kind of like correctness and stuff like that. And it's important because it once again protects a kind of humanity. But in some ways we're forming an alien kind of humanity in other ways, which hurts less.
Well, laughter, I believe in a world with laughter, there's way less sickness. There's way less death, less often. There's way less cancer. There's way less colds. There's way less bacteria. There's way less everything. And a world where there's laughter is a world that is happy.
Yeah.
And like, that's first number one element. The idea of being able to laugh. What is laughter?
Some people can't let go of that laughter, and they'll cause more pain.
Yeah, if you don't enjoy it. If you fight,
like, you gotta break that. That's the thing to break.
But if I'm laughing in the moment and laughing because I'm laughing, even when I don't feel good, laughing makes me feel stronger than I don't feel good, because I'm like, now my immune system feels great. You know? And I'm like, and I'm important to note that when I have a time where I think something's funny and I laugh really hard and I'm like, my stomach hurts, I allow it to hurt, because I'm like, no. I'm like, that's that thing in you trying to be like, no, let that fucking, like, stay. And you're like, no, I'm going to laugh because you ain't shit. You ain't got shit.
You don't know me. You ain't got shit, Pain. Fuck you, body. I'm a mind. Mind over matter.
Yeah, and you ain't got shit. See, there's no problems, only solutions.
Yeah. Well, that's a great attitude. Fucking attitude's a huge thing too, especially towards learning, right? And the open-mindedness versus the closed-mindedness. So just be fucking open-minded, but be respectful of boundaries too, though. I mean, that's where I think the censorship kind of comes into it, is that there's boundaries within people's minds, right? Not everybody was born the same. So there's lots of different, or I guess not everybody lives the same, has lived the same.
Where you're coming from, because like
so
I think you might be coming from the perspective of a lower side of life. You know, like I don't think we're coming from the perspective of the other, and because I don't know everybody and haven't met everyone, but I've met a decently sized group of people that understands, well, at least some of the ideas that I'm discussing. You know, maybe not to the element I think I understand it, you know, but like they got points and bits and pieces, and so there are people out there that are learning these things, and their intentions are going to be the same as mine. What's the truth? Why is this the truth? And they got to go through their process, and they'll eventually get there, you know. And so like I'm less concerned with that unless those people are like, hey, like, how do I do this? And you're like, well, this is this, this is this, this is this, you know, and you build friendships off that. But then there's that other side where we're reaching out, we're trying to influence. We don't have to necessarily influence. They made their decisions. But like, if they're willing to reach out to hear, then give them it. But they're probably not even going to want to hear it. But like, that's not for you to judge. Just do it. And don't find any fault in that. You know, and on top of that, you're going to give graciously beyond that. That's where I've come up with this idea. Like, if I'm rich, I don't care who or why they ask me for this. I'm going to give this to them because it's just my own consciousness. I don't care what they choose to do. You know, I'm not going to let them destroy themselves. If that's what they're up to, then I might step in and say, okay, no, you're not buying drugs like this. Let's go do this. Or, you know, here's a house, here's a place to live, here's a, you know, like, I'm not going to fucking be like, oh, you have to earn this because I had to earn this. And that's the difference. But
that
then
is
there's
a huge difference.
And there's lessons of entitlement that come from that. But if you're teaching a society about listening and understanding only, the only thing that will ever come of that is they'll listen and understand the lesson. It's like any seed of thought. It grows into what you grow it to be.
Yeah. But yeah, the same point of like people's lives being what drives their lessons and what forms their learning and kind of their experience. That's really it. Some people have this description of like that we're all born the same, or all people are born equal, or no people are born equal. It's like our lives are unequal.
Our minds,
opportunities become unequal, right? But our minds are all equal. Like, we all have the same kind of mind and kind of potential within it of like a way of minds working, but we have obviously different bodies, right? That are very similar in a lot of ways. But like,
the reason why opportunity is unequal is because you take in the
there's a lot of equal stuff too.
No, but the reason why opportunity seems unequal is because you take in to be true what you take in to be true. If I had this opportunity provided for me and I take it, I assume that everybody gets that opportunity provided for them. Why didn't you just roll into your local store and they march up to you and do this? No, that's your pace of life. That's not like for everybody. So like, that's the difference, you know? And opportunity is actually like not equal at all. You're right. It isn't. But what is equal is the ability of the mind. I'm a sick rapper. I like do other musical things. I'm okay at those other musical things, but when it comes down to it, I have a retarded flow and I can like come up with like these crazy lyrics, and the way I like to jump off words and like move, like when I get into that groove, I just come up with like wickedness, right?
And I think the point here of that is like the similarity between all the minds. The ability of the mind is to learn. So all humans can learn something that
so I go deeper,
some kind of progression.
I go deeper into that, right? Like I mean, there's
some really like epic stories, like
12, right? I look at each step and like what it took to get to where it is now, you know, and like I can see it all the way through my whole life. From the moment I remember I was like, oh, how old was I? Like fucking 12, 11. I was in fucking Ontario visiting some relative, my mom's cousins or something. They were older, right? But they had this neighbor, and they were downloading me all this music for me and bringing me over. And I remember like one of the first rap songs I listened to was Snoop Dogg. We were talking about that in the last podcast. But I listened to this first rap song. But I remember I had a few rap songs. I was listening to Sum 41 too a little bit then. But it was a few rap songs I had in that album that I kept listening to repetitively. And I had this hat, but I used to like wear this bandana under my hat when I was a kid, and I would like put this hat on, and like it was like it portrayed this rap thing, and I was like, this is who I want to be, kind of thing. And I remember standing in front of the mirror thinking, it's like, this is what I'm gonna do. And I remember as a kid like thinking about how bad it was between me and my parents growing up, and like I would really relate to Eminem at that time. And I was like writing all these lyrics, and they were really like, I hate you parent type lyrics. Go figure. The spirit of something follows the spirit of an idea. Like it doesn't go away. It doesn't change. It stays there. Yeah. You know? So like I start doing that, and I'm writing all this hate stuff. And in the process of this, I'm like, okay, well, this is fucking rap music. I have only what I know about it. I know I created this, but I don't know how to put it to music. I don't know why you put it to music. I don't know comprehend like in what way that happens. I didn't have any understanding of that, you know. Then one day my friend Colin shows up, and he's just like, oh, I was making beats on this program, you know, and he's just showing me. And I used it for like 2 or 3 days when I was a kid. And I'm like sitting there, and I didn't understand it really. And I was like, well, this is too complicating. But I made this little beat once with him. It was cool. And then like music just disappears out of my life. We go into this great poverty. We lose our house. I don't have anything. I got a fucking duffel bag full of clothes. I fucking go off to Regina because my parents send me there. Their checks bounce at the school. My uncle picks up the bill. It's $24,000 high school I went to, right?
Yeah.
So he picks up the bill. I end up fucking going back to the school, and I start picking up some guitar, and I've done it once or twice throughout my childhood, but like I start picking up some guitar, and I take some choir, and I develop this other love for music. Well, now I'm a Christian, I can't do rap because like childish thinking, right? You know, like, and I can't do this, and this is this thing. And so like I just completely pulled myself out of that. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this. And I went on this very preppy side of life. But then, like, as soon as I graduated, I went, like, right into the ghetto. And fucking, like, was hanging out with, like, real hard gangsters, fucking some bikers, some up to no good people, you know? That's the best way to describe those kinds of folks. And so they got some good things to say. They know a few things in life, but they're just up to no good. Unless you can handle it, don't go searching there, you know? Yeah. So, like, I fucking got some firsthand experience with some things. I had a gun put to my head and did some narcotics once. And that led to some addictions, led to other things. That was my path, okay? Because eventually it came back to this roundabout point. I went through these drugs. I went through this huge addiction where I was battling myself with meth and all those things. But then I got to that point where I met a girlfriend. I went off with her for 4 years. I was getting clean. I was thinking. I was starting to come about round 2. And after she leaves the picture, I think my life's over. Oh, I've done all this. This is gone. Well, she leaves the picture. I end up living with a friend of mine that I used to go to school with. Band shows up. They throw a keyboard in front of me. and then like these little seeds, and like all of a sudden this thing starts growing into this bigger thing, and 2 years later now I have actual produced tracks. So
huge progress.
Yeah. So, but
and
like
all that's gonna get into your new tracks too. That whole history and all those lessons and everything. And the inspiration. So, like I remember that Game Boy song.
Yeah, well, when we did even that first one, that one that's like really Bob and I did, I never really named it. Ended up on my phone as Rap Time 2.0 because the drum machine decided that's what its name was.
Yeah, that one's worth cranking.
So like, honestly, it's a dope song. It was really killer, but like we just freaking do that song. But like I said, it was just like that moment of like, okay, I waited my whole life to be here. And realizing that that moment was what I had seen in front of that computer screen when I was 12 years old in my parents' basement fucking writing out these raps and stuff. That image was exactly it. That was what I was trying to form in my mind that I hadn't seen yet, that I couldn't see, but I knew was there. You know? And then all of a sudden when it was there, it was like this feeling of stepping out of this like uncomfort zone of living and just stepping right into who you're supposed to be. I was like, I remember just like, I put on these headphones and I grabbed this microphone and like, it's sitting in front of me. And it's just like, as you step up to it, it was like, I waited my whole life for this. Fuck yeah, let's go. You know, like that is the journey to that. That is the journey to that song. And it's like that song comes out, you hear the lyrics, you hear the beat, but you don't always hear the story or the emotions leading up to that or how that was. You know, to feel that total sense of fulfillment and to know that I wasn't a millionaire. I didn't have any more money than I did when I started. It was all the same, but I felt that.
Yeah. That's beautiful that path exists, you know.
Yeah.
And you found it.
And like
that's testament to who you are.
I was watching this show called Rhythm and Flow on Netflix lately, and it's a lot about these rappers and stuff that are, like they go out. It's like Chance the Rapper, T.I., Cardi B. They got some other rappers on there, Twista, a few other guys, Royce da 5'9", and they go out and they find these city kids that are just like got some music, got some going. Some have the Barbara story, some have this other story, and they bring them to these auditions and they just do this little freestyle, and then they send them to this other contest where they do it to music, and then if they're good there, then they send those people to LA and then they compete like all of them against one another, right? And okay, it's this process, right? And I was watching the show and I was like thinking, like, what am I trying to get out of this? What is it that I'm trying to get out of this? And I'm like, ultimately, this is what it comes down to. These guys are right. They probably know what they're talking about. They're in the music industry. This is firsthand knowledge, so it doesn't matter what these people on the TV show are taking from it. I'm going to listen to what the hell they're saying and how they're critiquing and what they're saying. And then everything that they say, I'm going to find how that's true in my music, and I'm going to work on that. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm watching this, and I'm like watching the show, and like, I mean, I'm not trying to be ego. I'm just trying to like keep my dream alive here. You know, I got to be my own confidence. But freaking, I'm watching the show, and like they get down to their top 30 rappers, and like I'm listening to the freestyles, and I'm like, well, fuck, I'm better than all of them.
You got to go out and test it, though. That's your ego.
Yeah.
You know, so go test it out.
Check this out. This is the test. Every person I have spit for ever and has heard me spit ever in my life was like, holy fuck, that's dope as fuck.
So maybe that's the exact, like it's proven to me. So here's one account that I would give you the whole thumbs up. But I mean, you never know. Some people, maybe not the people you hang out with. I think most people you hang out with would just tell you their fucking truth, whatever it is, be real.
No, but like
some people end up just saying, oh, they need encouragement and just always give encouragement. I've experienced that in life.
I was at a party. I played that song and fucking somebody else took it on my phone and plugged it into the stereo and played it again.
Yeah.
At a party.
So like, that's a huge... That's the difference, you know.
That's the difference. It's just like, and I'm not.
It's like doing honor to your song,
It's just, I'm like, check this out. I created this. This is like what I love to do, and this is what I did. So check this out. This isn't like it's like, oh, look, I built this house because I'm a construction worker. Instead, it's just, look, I made the song because I'm a musician. There's not really a separation there. It's just like, look, I've had these tools. I work my life. This is what I work for. This is what I know. So you hear it, and it's like, that's what they know. That's what they do. It's not, do I want to be an artist? No, I am an artist. There it is. There's the song. You want to hear the song? There it is. That was the idea I was trying to tell you long before I ever had music for my stuff. You were like, oh, well, you got to put it to music and you got to do this thing. And I'm like, no, I know, but these things take time. And I remember there being a big section when you're like, I want to hear some of your stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm formulating it.
Yeah.
I'm creating it. And then one day it's like you show up and what do you hear? It's fucking fire. That's what you hear.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't like show you the craft as it went. I perfected it, and then I was like, boom, this is it right here. And now I'm like tweaking little things. So like right now we got a beat that sounds more like a progression rather than a loop. Like I didn't take a loop and make a beat. I fucking created my own loop and made a beat, but I made that loop sound more like a progression rather than a loop.
Yeah. I love music. I've been writing a lot of stuff recently too, and for me it's hard to go back to old ideas. Like I love just pushing through to new ideas, but it's great that you like going and working on it and finishing songs. Like that's the important part.
Apparently to what I understand from most people that like actually know much about music, like apparently that's the hardest part, is actually finishing the songs. And that's what I'm like, well, no, it's not hard. For me, that's like, again, that's my lowest level of thinking. I'm like, structure song. I'm like, here's the chorus, here's this, the hook has to be like this, but how do you want to be remembered? When you say something that people remember, that's how they're going to remember you. So that is the most key point, So it's just like when you're creating your hook, it's like, am I creating this hook? What kind of audience am I attracting? What feelings am I feeling? What do I want to create in this? And what image am I trying to portray here? Like, what is it that I'm going for?
Yeah. And usually it's a reflection of life. Usually, yeah, some music is kind of like half truths, but like, I don't know.
No, but it's a full truth because it's kind of on this path of its own.
Yeah.
Like, it's got that element of magic in it.
Yeah.
And the thing is it's going to end up creating, you could get somebody that has no business creating a really good song.
Because it's art, like it's art, it's truth, so.
It's how they feel, So
yeah.
It's like in theory is an element of it. It's not all of it.
There's some verses. I wrote these just like a little while ago. I guess I'd have to read it. You can't just see anything on that. Here, this is something I just wrote like a couple days ago. One of them is kind of like thinking about this. Most of it's personal, I guess. This starts out with kind of involving somebody else, but it's like, I'm ashamed. I'm not always going to do what I say. My world is still broken since I failed to change for you. I know why I wanted to. It was the best to be with you, but now the usual don't work for me. Nobody's words are going to fix me. Not going to take a drug to blank and roboticize me. It ain't about who's loving me, though it used to be. Now it's how I love myself, what habits I keep, what connections I deep, what prices isn't too steep. Yeah, I learned from the past, when it's all good, it doesn't last. Blessings always come with curses. Disguised ones are the worst. This life is going to take like you give. Check reality and you will see, but won't ever be the one that is given to you, because you are you. Going to know yourself and who is around this place you've called home, the brothers and sisters in your spiritual room. But don't wait, don't hesitate. Someone will take that chance if you don't make the move that's truly meant for you. And then there's a couple more too. And then I had like one thing that I was going to do as a chorus, but there's no music to this, right? Yeah, it's just verses. Here's another one. Discover another day. I believe in my way. Maybe I'll have something to say worth repeating to another. This human I am, the best lamb I could be. Had greater potential, yes. Not every decision was the best. I'm where I need to be to see what I have to see. When I open my mind, both good and evil feel it in time. Finding a piece of content. Nice to know others are like me. Better now that I'm not special. Tired of people deciding for me.
Very personal to yourself, for sure. I like that.
Yeah.
See, that's the deepness of art. Like for me, The deciding lyric, like, I remember I freestyled it when I first wrote it. I didn't fucking just write it. Like, I had freestyled it and then I wrote it down. Like,
yeah.
but like the ultimate defining point in my rap career, which kind of sent me onto the dark path, which got me to the point where I realized what I was gonna work from and stuff, because darkness is not the way, you know. But like the line was like, if you haven't figured out I'm a little bit twisted, here, let me remind you in case you missed it. I can't answer why these thoughts ever existed or why I was never a rich kid. This kind of sounds like a demon a little bit to me. So distant, I'm on planet Venus. I got lost searching for Jesus. My compass was my penis that orgasmed at the stroke of sheer genius. Bam! And my words were born while I laid in thorns, and my face is worn, and my chase is warm, and my brain forewarns, and my addiction storms. By the world I'd sworn to grow old and not be torn. By the world I was taught, straight into the wrong thoughts. How much drugs really cost, you know how many of those I bought. I never kept the receipt, but I lost my cheeks, and my pupils peaked, and I heard laughter as the voices speak. You looked miserable. Did you think you were invisible? Let's do the withdrawal in intervals. Yes, the procedure is critical. Take my words literal. The crack house is livable. I might not know everything there is to know, but I know everything there is in blow. There was a time I didn't know what I wrote. If I needed inspiration, took another line of coke. But I was beaten, raped as a child. It's funny all the things that I had just brushed off and smiled. Man, isn't that wild?
Yeah, it is. I love that verse. Holy fuck. It's just like, it flows so fucking well. Like, it's so fluid and so like such a range, so dynamic in the concepts and the ideas that you're putting forth, and like the story is huge. Like some of the metaphors you're using too. Holy fuck. Like, I love that verse. I remember there's a version of that somewhere that I think I recorded of you rapping that in my car when we lived in Camrose.
Are you serious?
That's somewhere crazy. I think so. On my Google Drive, like, so I think I put it on.
I literally freestyled that section about the compass of Jesus and my penis and all that shit. And then I went home and like I wrote that down because I was like, how the hell? I'm like, where did that come from? And I think that was probably my first clue that music was coming from this greater thing that was an exterior force in life. Because I was like, how did I come up with that? Where did that come from? Like, I felt that demon speak through me. I remember one time we were recording in the basement. Inner and outer. Me and Jordan were recording, and like we hear this other sound. There was like literally, here's my voice frequency. There is only one frequency, right? And then all of a sudden there's this like little blip, and it's like this little tiny frequency. So we isolate my sound out, zoom in on that, and it's this fucking thing. I don't know what it is, whispering my lyrics.
What the fuck? Did it sound like you? Like, what did it sound like?
No, it did not sound like me at all. It was like, it sounded like a dark force. You know, like when you imagine on a movie what a demonic force sounds like when a wizard's fighting and it's like, oh, all echoey. That was what it was like.
You shall not pass.
But in a whisper, and it's like sitting there telling you like the lyrics to the song. Fuck it, I think it was the Eternal Bleeding song.
Really?
Yeah.
That'd be some fucking weird shit to hear in a demonic whispering voice. That'd be terrifying.
Yeah, but like, it's so funny. Me and Jordan, we're just like listening to it. And we're staring at each other. We're like,
I'm checking under the bed for monsters tonight. Fuck. Save me, Chuck Norris.
Yeah, like, it's like, what happened there? What was that?
I don't know, man. It could be something in the.
I mean,
who knows? It's probably
somehow
it got into the circuit. Somehow it got put into a circuit.
No, that's the spirit of something. That was the energy that was powerful enough to know it could tap into whatever it wants, and like, see, that's it. What I mean,
yeah, transferred.
Intelligent mind. Energy has an intelligent mind, but not all of energy is one mind. parts of energy are not all of one good energy. One good energy has one good mind. The other parts of energy have separate minds of their own that pull from this energy to have energy, you know, like, so there's that whole idea of like demon sacrifice and eternal living and killing, you know what I mean? So technically, if you could convert somebody to just thinking about life in a simple manner of money, technically you would succeed because you follow all the principles of life. You follow this rule, this rule, this rule, this rule. So like, it's like how it works. It's just so weird. A person's like, oh, well, here's a fucking $100,000 signing bonus. Welcome to your new $400,000 a year job. And like, here's your thing. And here's this thing. And you have no clue where that opportunity spawned from originally. You know, like it just showed up in your life. Well, you think you willed that into place? No, that wasn't how that worked. You made a decision here, and that was the result of that decision. You decided in your heart, I'm going to screw this person over and do this thing, and maybe I'll just lie once to get $5,000 to start this business, and it'll be okay because I'll pay it back. Not because I lied about it, but because I'll pay it back. You know, like it isn't so much of a matter of fucking, oh, I succeeded because I had the power to succeed. I'm a smart mind. I can succeed. There's ways to do that, but there's things you have to go through to succeed. So why you want success to begin with is the most important question everybody should ask themselves, because everybody wants it. Success is power. Knowledge is power. To have success, you need knowledge. So you need to know why it is you're doing what you're doing. And if you don't know who you are, you can't determine what that is. But we all kind of just have this like, way of figuring that out.
Yeah. And that's life. You know, there's your lessons. That's what led you to here, you know? We're always just figuring out our lives. Some people finish figuring it out and just live it out, you know, but like there's always something that you can be figuring out and kind of can be progressing, and that's going to keep you sharp, you know, going into old age and stuff like that. It's going to keep you from forgetting everything, you know, and
think about
keep
where
you enjoying
your mind
life
is
for longer.
where it was, you know, a few years ago to now. It's just like there's all that growth, and it's just like what used to seem like a smart idea is now a dumb idea. So like that whole concept, like even the podcast, like go back to the beginning, it evolves. Over time, everything with practice evolves. That's a craft. Think of your life as your craft. And you want to practice the pure craft. And the pure craft is to live the best life. Not the most memorable one, not the greatest one, but your best one. And what does that mean? Because
making it a comedy.
That is different.
Yeah, it is. And that, you know, that comes down to just being different people. Like, I've been trying to like come up with comedy, and it's like just like inspired comedy, just like word comedy. Like, by living in the world that we live in, most of the time we can choose for things to work out, right? And that's kind of what comedy really is just having a happy ending sometimes. Well, all the time, I guess. But like coming up with actually things to like make jokes about is difficult, because you can't really make jokes about differences between people. You have to make jokes about things that are true for all people.
Well, no, you see, you can make jokes about the differences because making jokes about the differences points out how stupid the differences are. So like that's the essence of comedy, you know? So like if I'm going to make a joke about something, I'm going to point out how ridiculous it is. You know? So like it's like the essence of like when I say that fucking people are dumb. Well, why are people dumb? The element that follows that might make it funny. You know what I mean? It isn't that like, this. You know, it's just like people are dumb. Why are people dumb? Well, I got in my car at the supermarket the other day, and this fucking bastard, he pulls up and he starts trying to fight me, you know? And you go into the story and you build off of that, you know? So it's just like He starts trying to fight me. Meanwhile, his old lady's sitting there screaming at him. He gets out of his car and freaking, you know, like you describe the scenario. And then you cut to points that are funny. You come back to them. You remember, okay, I said this key fact, and I said this key fact, and I said this key fact, and now I'm going to tie this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing together. You know, that's why intelligent people are comics, is because fucking you're able to take a lot of concepts and make a joke about it. You know, like, that's how you get something like God feces.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, no, that's pretty funny.
God feces is genius. It's just like, you're small in the universe. Everybody knows that.
That's
a fact. That's not funny. But what's funny is the fact that you imagine God as a body like we are, and you imagine you're just this little dropping of shit, not even the whole turd, but just a piece of it. Well, it's just like, that's a whole fucking... See? We think we're the whole turd, and we're just a piece of the turd.
Yeah, we're made of the same shit as everybody else, and it is shit. Fuck. But it does take genius to make comedy. Like, you got to be willing to think about the same things to a point where they become kind of crazy. You know, sometimes if you say the same word over and over, it sounds fucking weird. If you say the same idea over and over, you're going to start to question it. You'd be like, are you fucking, I thought that before? It's like, you start to see different things within it. I remember, like, even just like looking at a water park, instead of looking at it as this place I can go down these slides and have tons of fun, being as, over here we have a water park over in Africa,
unexpected,
Poison River,
right?
Like,
so, like, you want
time to go down the slide. Let's have a great time.
Comedy comes from what's unexpected. So, like,
if somebody is like fucking gives you